episode, what is this, 5 now?
I think so.
Oh, we're just building our catalog. Welcome to...
Wait, what? Sports.
Oh my God. See, it's just, one day, Dr. Eli, you're just going to have to try it. It's very cathartic.
I don't think so.
Well, not to mention, his would be down here like, wait
what?
Sports.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA Sports is in the game.
Okay, tangent. So, welcome back, everybody. I am Gina, one half of the dynamic duo of your sports education. And to my right, as always, is Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Gina.
Hello, Dr. Eli.
Hello, ladies.
You're not going to say the doctor is in.
The doctor is in.
That's how you should introduce yourself every episode. Ridiculous. All right. So, last week we talked about the wrap up from the Masters, and it was so much that I went in thinking I knew a lot, and then I was just like, wow, there's still so much more. So we'll come back to that another time. But today is all about the NFL draft. Go ahead. Go ahead. You'll learn what that sound means. Go ahead, Dr. Eli. I said I was going to give you more free reign in this one. So explain what your sound effect was all about.
That is the sound effect when the commissioner comes up with the pick. Boo! By the way, I can't stand that guy.
Get ready for that.
When
yes,
that
we'll get
sound,
to why.
That sound effect is when the actual commissioner comes up and pronounces the draft pick.
So that's the pick is in sound.
Yes.
The pick is in.
And originally it was an ESPN sound, but it's now become an NFL sound.
They hijacked it. I said when?
Actually, the NFL Network has a different sound.
Do they?
Yes.
Because the team local radios all use that sound.
Well, I mean, it's a well-known sound.
It's probably common.
Yeah,
well,
common.
I'm just saying, if it was ESPN's, they would have it copyrighted and they wouldn't be able to use it. If it's
true.
the NFL's, they would.
That's because 92.3 The Fan here in Cleveland and ESPN 850 are joint. I mean, even though 92.3 The Fan is CBS and ESPN is ESPN Radio, they are still a joint.
Disney owns them all, don't they?
Yeah.
Disney.
Well, except
No,
for CBS.
he doesn't own CBS.
No.
Oh, I know. I was thinking about ESPN.
Viacom owns CBS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you'll hear that boo a lot. We'll get to why, because that was very interesting to me. Even the history behind it was very interesting to me. But anyway, this is all about the NFL draft, which is April 28th of this year in
Vegas.
Vegas has come up on the map. Can I just say, like, everybody wants to do everything in Vegas lately.
Well, they were supposed to be in Vegas during the 2020 draft.
Okay.
And that, of course, got canceled.
With COVID. Yeah.
COVID.
What was this? The Raiders were already in Vegas at that point, or no?
It was going to be their first year. So it was the year that they would have gotten a first draft pick.
Okay, I gotcha.
For Vegas.
Gotcha.
So they had just finished building their stadium. Mm-hmm. And they were, going to be there. And then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And it became that virtual draft, which was also very interesting because the virtual boos were weird.
Right.
But
I mean, I guess they still had to figure out a way to do it, but...
And, I mean, also during the virtual draft, you can see different coaches in their different houses, like Cliff Kingsbury, the coach of the
I was going to say,
Cardinals. Yeah.
Seen, oh, God, I can't remember his name now.
What team?
Patriots. Well...
Belichick.
Browns, then Patriots. Belichick, yes. Yeah. I was like, why can I not remember his name? He was a Browns coach.
You should remember that name.
Right.
But seeing Belichick with his dogs and having Belichick put his dog on the table, like whenever... So when he kind of knew they would cut to him and he didn't want to be on camera, he would leave and his dog would jump up behind the computer screen and it looked like his dog was doing the work.
Ridiculous.
It was so cute. It was so cute. But anyways, so they wouldn't mess up the order of where all the teams were playing.
Okay.
Or where the draft was going to be. They were like, okay, we're going to still be in Cleveland for 2021.
Okay.
But 2022, we're going to head back to Vegas.
So they just brought it back around.
Right.
Interesting.
They had not yet decided on the
You're
stuff.
right over there.
Yeah,
that cord is
getting tangled up in the
This
cord.
what happened to your cousin last week. That cord is just tripping over there.
Oh, and one of the headphones isn't quite working, so I'm only hearing things out of one ear.
Oh gosh, you want the set?
No, that's okay.
But anyway, so this is all about explaining kind of the basics of why is the NFL draft a big deal? And I love the way that Amy explained it. So I'm just going to let her rip on this one because this was the funniest but most relevant example of anything I've ever heard in my life.
So Gina turned to me and she's like, I know what the draft is, but what is the draft? And I was like, imagine the most high stakes team picking in elementary school kickball.
Yes. I was like, oh, see, look at his face. He's like, I never thought about it. You know how big that was to pick the right kicker, the right pitcher from the plate when you play kickball.
Well, or even if all you got to do was pick teams in gym class.
Yes.
Like, you knew you had to get certain people if you were the person assigned to pick teams. I was never a person assigned to pick teams. I was the person sitting there going, oh, they're going to pick me last again. But
I was the person being like, please don't make me actually participate. I don't want to play. That sucks. And I'm going to get beamed with this ball and I'm going to be pissed.
But you know that was like a really big thing.
Yes.
And everybody knows how that feels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine if there's millions of dollars behind each of your picks.
Oh, my gosh. The reality of that was just like a light bulb went off in my head.
And as a player waiting to be picked, there's very real life consequences to the order in which you're picked.
True.
So it's not just, the kids who really want to play versus the kids who really just want to sit at the end of the bench.
Please never put me in.
Or, the kids who really want to play and can play and the kids who really want to play and can't.
Right.
It's literally the difference in paycheck between the first round, the second round, third round, fourth round. The paychecks guaranteed get smaller.
And I mean, the amounts that drop, like between even just first and second, is crazy to me. Crazy to me.
So that's why I say, like, it is the most high stakes version of picking your elementary school kickball team.
And everybody who's listening was just like, oh, I get it now.
So do you know how much does the if you're picked in the top 10, you know how much you make? Like the standard?
What's the base?
Well, the base is you get a 4-year contract.
Is that guaranteed?
Guaranteed, yeah.
So if you're first round, you get a guaranteed 4-year contract.
Worth $34 million. Everybody gets $34 million. If you're picked in the top 10 first round.
So that's like no matter what, you can get more than that?
Usually you're not getting too much more than that
right.
as a contract. It may be bonuses, so you may be
right.
set up. So
you
like if you're Myles Garrett, you will get a signing bonus, and then you may also get a bonus based on how many sacks you get in a year or something like that.
There are incentives. So signing bonus with the first overall pick through 1 through 10, a signing bonus is like $23 million.
Oh, so on top of
the 34.
Wow.
Right.
So that is huge.
And that's only if you're in the top 10 picks. Yeah. That's not even like the first round.
Oh.
So the first round is 30 is 30 players.
Right.
So by the time you get to like 32, because there's 32
it drops.
So you're no longer guaranteed that $34 million after number 10.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
Right, and each round it also drops.
Makes sense.
So like if you're in the 7th round, you may only have like a guaranteed, million or something.
Damn. I only get $1 million? That sucks.
You also don't have like a guaranteed 4-year contract at that point. You get like 1.
Yep.
So
gotcha.
So that's
serious business, boy.
And like I said, that's why it's very high stakes. So I'm going to let you drive where we're going next.
Yes, I have the power.
I just have the answers.
All right, calm down there. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I was waiting for her either to go, I have the power.
I almost did. And I thought that was going to make him do what he's doing now, which is just grab his head and go, dear God, why me?
Or by the power of Grayskull.
I didn't go quite that far. I almost did Wonder Twins activated and reached across the table.
Yeah, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to get out of here.
Good night, everybody. All right, so now we know, like, why the draft is such a big thing. But let's talk about, like, how that draft actually functions. Because obviously, and we're going to post a little bit more about, like, kind of the history of the draft because it is very it goes back a ways and it's very in depth. But we're going to talk about the modern setup of the NFL draft as it is today. So, how does it work as far as like just the basics?
So, the basics. Each team has an office.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it
at the draft?
Located? Oh, okay. It's at the actual place where the draft is held.
Right.
Got it.
With all the modern conveniences.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see these offices unless you're watching like behind the scenes with the Browns or building the Browns or something like that. They'll give you like behind the scenes stuff.
So if I can interject real quick, they don't actually have offices at the draft. They're at their team headquarters. They're called war rooms.
Well, no, but they also get a small room at the draft. Okay, because they have to be able to contact the people who are at the draft so that they can contact the correct people with the NFL.
Right, but they're normally sitting outside, like, here's the, you got the crowd behind you, and then you got all the little teams with their little flags right there. And then, the pick comes into that guy. The guy goes up and gives the card to the actual commissioner.
Okay, so what they show on Building the Browns doesn't match that. I'm just going to tell you that. Having watched it like every year.
And it makes sense that
different teams have different setups. So
right.
But I'm sure there is like liaisons at the actual draft, and you have your people back in the home offices going logistically, like checking this is where our salary cap is. And
so
blah, blah, blah.
all the decision makers are back in the home office.
Yeah.
The people that are at the draft are like literally the ones like running around with pieces of paper. It kind of looks like the stock exchange.
I was gonna say Wall Street.
But and which you think is like crazy because like why are we running around with little bits of paper? Although the last couple of years it's looked very different because pandemic and COVID protocols and whatever. So I think it's gone a little bit more digital.
Which it seems like it was kind of behind the times not to already be that way.
Well, I mean, at least we're not like it was in the 1983 first televised draft.
True.
I showed Gina a video of that last night.
I was tripping.
The John Elway draft, look it up.
Oh my gosh.
There's like somebody's VHS video footage that's uploaded
with the little scrolling bar that goes up the screen.
That's uploaded on YouTube. But yeah, it's it was definitely very different, very trippy. Because it literally was like a conference room, not much bigger than the studio.
Yes.
With all the teams.
Crammed in. I mean, barely able to move.
And literally, like, at the end of one table, then another table started, and that was a different team.
It almost looked like a college room setup, where, like, you just had the long tables, and people were just, like, 2 per table with the little flags and the helmets.
It was very, not quite lecture hall setup, yes. Mm-hmm. And they literally had the giant phones on the table that they were using to call back and forth to things.
Old school. For those of you who don't know, there were such things as landlines.
Not only were there landlines, but the phones were gigantic.
What? Was it just for show?
No, like phones were that big.
Oh gosh. I did not realize that. I thought it was just for show.
No. Those were probably the first touch tone phones and not rotaries.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, they were actually on phones and calling back and forth and whatever and calling between tables, which seems weird, but you don't necessarily want to have to run all the way across the room to talk to Seattle. But,
True.
But literally the ESPN analysts were sitting in one corner and they panned over to a podium that literally had just a like Holiday Inn backdrop behind it.
It's so basic.
It was just one of those basic conference room backdrops, curtains. And the commissioner was handed a card.
Mm-hmm.
He walked up to the podium and said, in the draft, such and such a team takes such and such a player, and pushed his glasses back up onto his nose.
And went and sat back down.
It was the most right basic. Next to the podium. Compared to what we're used to today, which is a full-scale spectacle.
I mean, like, he walks up and he's got, like, like this whole, like, air about himself.
Boo.
There you go. I was waiting for it.
Yes. So, the team uses the office spaces, whether it's an actual, like, room or a table that serves as their office, to go back and forth with owners, other teams, try to get trades, contacting, their pick and their pick's agents. What we see a lot today is like the surprise looks of the picks.
Yeah.
Back in like the 1983 draft, again, they weren't even there.
Yeah. I noticed that. I was like, there was not a single player. It was all like the office staff.
And it wasn't even like the presidents and the owners or anything else either. It was just the office staff.
Right.
And the players were usually interviewed by phone. If they even bothered to call in, or, like the next day or later that afternoon, there was a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
That John Elway draft was a weird one because there were weird circumstances with Elway, but it's, and what happened with him and where he went, but, he actually had his own, set,
Was it a press conference?
Had his own press conference set.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
I saw you searching for
My
it.
brain was like, it's not on the sheet of paper, Amy. It's not on the sheet of paper.
You got to think about it yourself this time.
And then they call in their picks to the commissioner or into the NFL headquarters, and somebody walks a piece of paper to the commissioner, and they're like, hands it to him. Nowadays, most of that's done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We don't
you
see
don't
it on
see
camera.
any of that.
Even when they've got the camera trained on the stage,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see any of that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
almost like they pass it off to the commissioner backstage because you don't see anybody
But
hand them
he
anything.
walks out after he's gotten it, and he makes a grand walk because it's always like a mile-long walk between the entry
'Cause
and
I
the
hate
it,
in between
man.
everyone, he goes backstage and comes back out, backstage and back out.
Well, you would too if you want. If you were the commissioner. First of all, the bathrooms are backstage.
Just facts.
Secondly, and let's be honest, the commissioner is of a certain age, so he's not a young man.
Right.
Also, you got food. You got probably champagne back there. You're also whining and dining the picks that were previously made.
Yeah,
and
that
any
are
of
there.
the families that are sitting back there waiting.
Well, sometimes the commissioner doesn't even announce the pick. It'd be like a former player of that team.
So what he'll also do is come out and announce like who is going to announce the pick.
Oh, cool.
So
okay.
that's the other thing is that like especially in the most recent drafts, they've had contests for the biggest fans to get the honor of doing that and things like that.
Gotcha. I also noticed, and I know we'll kind of touch on that too, but I also noticed that back in the day when we were watching some of the history of it, that there were no fans present. It was all like just the personnel.
It was like the mid 90s when they started doing fans.
Yeah, because now like there's stands and people have on their jerseys and like you get invited to come
and
or something
for years
like that.
it was only at Radio City Music Hall.
Yes, and now I felt so sorry about the New York Jets fans because they always get the worst draft pick. I mean, every time the commissioner would actually say, well, your New York Jets draft so-and-so players, I just see like the doom look.
They're like, what does it matter?
So, I mean, the thing is that all of that, is, again, the evolution of what we have today.
Yes.
Which actually leads to the whole evolution of the commissioner.
Boo!
Yes.
The
So
boos and the boo-birds.
is that what they're called?
Well, it's a sports term anyways, when you have lots of... So I hear it a lot in baseball, when you have, like, players or teams that just get booed and, the boo-birds have come out.
So cheesy. That's something I would say.
But, I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you're in an open-air stadium.
Yeah.
The boo-birds have shown up. But, yes, the commissioner gets booed. The commissioners, when you look at the history of it, the Bleacher Report had an incredible story. It was like 47 pages long.
I mean, I'll post it for you guys, but you don't have to read the whole thing.
About the history of booing the commissioner. And it turns out that commissioners have generally been booed throughout history in every sport.
Crazy.
Okay?
Correct.
Tagliabue got booed.
Yep.
Silver's gotten booed.
Yep.
They've all gotten booed at some point in time. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, we just hate Goodell now. So
Well, the thing is that
hate
the
that guy.
role of the commissioner
Calm
is
down
to
over
be the voice of the owner.
Mm-hmm.
and the voice of management. Now, raise your hand if you really love the management you work for.
Not a single hand went up.
Okay? Exactly. Most of us, if we had the opportunity to just outright boo our management,
Yeah.
we would boo our management.
And worse, depending on your situation. Not condoning violence. Just saying.
Okay. So not only does he take on, this role within his sport, but he also can end up getting tagged with all of our other pent-up frustrations.
True.
Because you don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, with Goodell, he gets a lot more boos. Okay. First off, he got a lot more boos because he has a very strict stand on what he calls defending the shield.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, look at the NFL logo.
It's
It
shield.
looks like a shield.
Yeah.
So he's trying to defend the brand,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that all owners want their marketing and presidents and their management to do.
Right.
You want them to defend the brand. If something happens that's bad for the brand, you want them to correct it.
Right.
The problem is not everybody agrees with the things that he's done in order to protect the shield.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't seem to always come out right on the right sides of decisions. And some of it may not even be him, but he's the bearer of bad news.
Right. He's the messenger.
And unfortunately, we do shoot the messenger. Okay? But
Are you
on
all right over there?
some of them, it actually is his decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
He's struggling.
I don't know. I just can't stand that guy.
Well, and what I think is actually very cool is that he actually has leaned into the booze.
He really has. Like, the one video we watched, he was like, come on, boo me more. Boo me more. So he's really kind of
He does it a lot. What I will say is the first one that I realized was Philly the first one they did outside of Radio City Music Hall.
No, that was Tennessee.
Okay. What I do know is that when he got to Philly, that was like the one where it like kind of changed. Where like it was like, first of all, Philly is known for rude fans.
Oh yeah, I mean they booed Santa Claus, so
They have.
Yeah. They booed Santa Claus.
They have.
Those bastards.
You can ask Kevin on the Quad Brothers tonight.
Boo
at 7.
what?
They boo anything.
Oh my gosh.
They boo anything. They are known for being rude, and they've leaned into it.
Apparently.
Okay.
No Christmas presents for them.
They are the one that I remember was kind of like the one where it was like, we are going to outboo every other city. And then it became a contest from city to city that's hosted to outboo the next city.
That's nuts.
Right? So everybody is trying to like make the boos louder, ruder, whatever.
Right.
I mean, they've taken away any possibility of you being able to like throw Rotten Tomatoes at the man. So, which if they hadn't, Eli would have.
In a heartbeat.
God, I will beam him all, man.
Right in the face. In the face.
In the face.
But I am certain that, like I said, it takes a certain type of person to be able to lean into the fact
Absolutely.
that you know that you are the hated face of management.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
It's like Office Space. We're not going to go on that tangent. So mute your mic because I saw it coming.
Can I get a stapler? Stapler, please.
Stapler, please.
Excuse me, my stapler.
Okay. Back on topic. I'm going to reel us back in.
I had a professor in college that sounded just like that guy.
No, I would have to drop that class.
Greek art and archaeology.
Oh my God, a whole semester of that? I would have died.
So anyways.
Okay.
So he's really leaned into it. So he does. In fact, that's why he set up a virtual boo during the virtual draft.
Yeah.
But the other thing was it actually was a money raiser for them for their COVID charities and things.
Oh.
Because you actually paid money in order to be shown on TV booing the commissioner.
The things that people pay for.
You had to like give a donation in order to do that.
Oh wow, that's deep.
But they did. They truly did.
That's deep.
That's
very deep.
and he was all up for it. I mean, to stand in your own home and let people boo you in your own house.
Like,
I mean,
that's
that
like-
is a mad props type of thing.
that's like somebody coming in your house and like knocking down all your dishes off the counter and being like, ugh, and it shatters everything. Like, okay, bye, and they just dip out.
So last year in Cleveland, the commissioner actually brought his chair that he sat in the 2020 draft on
From
the
his
stage.
house?
Yeah.
and the fans got to sit in
yep,
it. The
yep,
ones that were
yeah.
like giving the special draft picks,
Yeah.
they got to sit
It was
in
awesome.
his chair.
It was awesome.
What? Oh, that was pretty clever.
So like he would at the end of whatever team's pick,
Mhm.
if the next pick was supposed to be given by a fan for that next team,
Yeah.
I think I saw the Cincinnati Bengals and the Ravens one. He would call them up at the end of the last pick,
Yeah.
and say, you know, I need to get so and so up here on stage. You're going to get the next to deliver the next pick. And some of these fans like truly didn't know that they were going to be delivering the next pick.
That's so cool.
They knew they had won tickets to the draft. They didn't know that they were getting to do the pick.
Wow.
And so they would go up on stage and he'd be like, do you need any snacks? He was like bringing them snacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Get outta here.
Actually, my sister's friend Stacy, who is a big Browns fan,
Mhm.
actually literally did a video to for her to get on stage to actually do the video. Evidently, she didn't win the video, but she, you know,
She entered the contest.
That's a big thing. Wow.
So again, no matter how you feel about him
Yeah.
personally, Eli,
It was targeted specifically at you.
you have to give him mad props for leaning into it that much.
Right.
Okay? Because he knows that he's playing the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. And he
Right.
took that role on. Like,
And it's like any actor who leans into the fact that they're going to get typecast as the bad guy.
Right.
Just thinking about it, there's a new movie with Daniel Radcliffe where he plays the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And every interview I've seen him do about this,
Yeah.
they ask him, well, what is it like to be, play the evil genius, up against, and he's like,
It's great.
I love it.
It's wonderful.
It's very freeing.
I can let all those urges out.
So, you got to give him props for the fact that he knows it and he accepts it and he, gets this.
Right.
But yeah, it's
It's a big thing.
a huge thing.
I just want to
And the first few times I think ESPN was trying to actually drop it out in their coverage
I thought
because you didn't really hear it, but you would hear him mention it.
Right.
And now that it's become like a tradition, ESPN raises the crowd mics so that you can hear it.
Yeah, because with the one video we watched, I was like, you can't hear them boo at all. I was expecting it, and they didn't do it. But I think it was an ESPN video. But anyway, okay, so we kind of talked about why the draft is so big, the modern kind of setup as far as the teams. Now let's talk about. So I know that every team gets a pick, ideally in the first round. In a perfect world with no trades, no deals, all 32 teams would each pick in every round. But that's not how that works. So let's talk about how picking order is determined and then what changes that picking order.
Okay. So the orders are determined by the record of the team.
Okay.
The worse your team is, the higher the draft pick, as we know here in Cleveland.
What? We never know what that's like.
When you hear a team, the media say, "Oh, they're tanking," that's to get the number one overall pick.
I was actually about to get there,
Sorry.
Dr. Eli.
Okay. I know you're excited. He put his phone down for that and everything.
I know. I was like, I can't wait until we get to the baseball cheats and scandals one because we're going to have to tie him to his chair.
Yeah, pretty much. We're going to have to put some duct tape over. Silence is golden. Duct tape is silver.
I won't say another word.
For now. Go ahead.
So, the worse your score, the worse your record is, the higher you pick.
Right.
Again, as we know here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and as Eli was saying, there are teams who get accused of tanking every year. There are teams who you could almost say without a doubt have tanked in a year.
Is that just like when they're just like, we're just not going to play anymore?
Yeah, I mean, basically when it looks like a team has completely given up, it means that their management is like, our record is going to put us right in the middle of the pack where we're not going to get anybody our team isn't good enough to be middle to low of the pack. We need to get higher, but we don't have any pieces to trade.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they may decide unofficially, because they can't do it officially.
I'm about to say, scandalous.
They may decide unofficially to tank. I believe that's part of the reason why the NBA installed the lottery was because of tanking scandals.
Okay.
So, and we'll get to the NBA draft at some point in time.
Yeah.
But before Dr. Eli starts interjecting again, he's like reaching for the button,
He's like,
reaching for the
it?
button.
Do I do it? Will they yell at me?
So, we'll get to that at some other point in time.
Right.
But NFL has not gone that far yet.
Okay.
Mainly because, the seasons are short.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams are trying to do what they can do so that they can have the most exciting season for their fans.
Yeah.
But it really sucks as a fan of a team that you think might be tanking.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
And I'm sure that's a conversation, like, when your team is doing that bad, you're like, they're tanking. They're doing it on purpose. Like, that has to just be part of the narrative.
If you'd listened to any of the local radio stations a couple of years ago...
Yeah.
Oh, that's all they were talking about.
During our 0-16 season?
Yes. Well, actually, that one... But, back before we had some of the pieces that we have now.
Okay.
They were definitely like, especially when we were drafting a running back as our first round draft pick.
Look at him. Eli, Dr. Eli's struggling so bad. Go ahead. I'll give you this one. Go ahead.
Do you know who that running back was?
Richardson.
Trent Richardson.
Trent Richardson. Trent. Okay, he loved
in
Trent
2012,
Richardson.
he was the number 3rd pick in the first round.
And he was our first round pick.
And I'm assuming that was not good. Or an ideal
He
pick?
didn't do well for us.
Well, first season he did pretty well.
He did okay the first season, but then he kind of fell off dramatically.
He didn't even peter off. He just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
To the point where people were literally getting his name removed from their jerseys.
Whoa, what?
Which, by the way, I still have my Trent Richardson jersey.
I know
that my parents bought me, and I can't get rid of it.
So I actually, that at that point in time, I was working for a Starbucks that was next to a sporting goods store, and they specialized in putting names on jerseys for high school students and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So if you were playing on your local team, they specialized on getting your name on the back of your jersey. They were working so long and hard to literally peel the letters up off and put somebody's actual last name on there so that they could continue to wear because if you just paid $85 for a jersey,
you ain't throwing that in the garbage
or more. I mean, my Josh Cribbs that I wear was $75 on sale.
Jeez, yeah, your jersey wasn't cheap.
So you don't want to toss it. So
Right.
they actually at that point in time, the different sports stores were coming up with ways to remove the letters and put down
That's
new
actually
names.
pretty cool, but it's probably extremely time consuming.
Time consuming
Lord.
and probably expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, so when teams tank, it's very hard for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And most managements don't want to piss off their fans.
Probably a good strategy.
There are some managements out there who seem to not care.
Yeah.
But
I can tell you, Jerry Jones doesn't give a crap.
he doesn't, but he's got enough money not to. And he spends it.
Not this year.
Well, but usually he does. So, that's the thing is that you never want to be there. But then as far as the trades and things go.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally every team at the beginning of the year has a pick in the first round. How about we do it like this? Say this is the first ever draft.
Okay.
Every team has a pick in the first round.
Got it.
You know you're getting a pick.
Mm-hmm.
During the season, you have a guy injured. You need to get a new guy. There's another team that has a guy that they kind of want to deal, but they don't want to give him away for nothing.
Right.
You may give up. your rounds or your picks. Depending on how good the guy is, you may give up your first round pick.
Wow.
Okay. Over time, certain teams have accumulated a number of first round picks because sometimes you can say, I want this year's first round pick and next year's first round pick. And then you might do that with 2 other teams over the next couple of years.
Oh.
And so you may actually wind up with a team that's got like 3 first round picks.
Whoa.
Because of the way they've dealt over the years. And the
Yeah.
Browns have done that up until the last, I think it was last year actually. It was like the last time.
Correct.
So we have been wheeling and dealing all these people
Crazy.
and getting all these and accumulating all these first and second and third round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not much of anything to give up a 6th round draft pick.
Right.
Like if you need the guy, but you don't really highly value him, you may offer a 6th round pick.
Right.
You'll
Just be
see
like, I'm going to shoot my
packages-
shot and see what
right.
happens.
You'll see packages to teams for guys where you're giving away a first round this year, a first round next year, a second round next year, a third round next year, and yeah. So like, and it might go 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and I don't even want to know what we offered for the new guy. Okay,
I know what we offer.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
No,
we aren't
no.
talking about it. But
It was probably significant, though.
it was highly significant.
Because then we lose, soapbox, didn't we lose a lot of people off of our team this year?
Yes,
Like veterans off our team this year.
yes.
But we
Jarvis
do-
Landry, et cetera, et cetera. Yes.
Yeah.
But Jarvis Landry hasn't actually been signed, and there was a report out there that he is actually coming back.
Well, so the latest report I heard was that he fired all of his agents and he hired a new team because he didn't feel like his agents were listening to him, and therefore they were trying to negotiate something he didn't want because he wanted to be here, and
Okay.
there's a possibility that they could restart negotiations with him.
Oh.
But anyways,
Right.
off topic.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
So you've wheeled and dealed and you've got all those picks.
Right.
So now you may not have all 32 teams picking in the first round.
So, like, one team could be picking 4 times.
Throughout the round, yes,
Hypothetically.
hypothetically. It doesn't usually end up that they are back to back.
Right.
Occasionally it does. And
You
then
might get 2 in one draft.
right, so you might get, a team that's got pick number 1 because their season was so bad, but then they may have also traded and they got, pick number 14 and then pick number 23.
Okay.
But what can happen is even on the day of the draft, they can wheel and deal and they can make changes. And so at that point, teams are going, okay, I will give you 2 second-round picks and a third-round pick if I can jump up 2 spots to get to your first-round pick that's 2 spots higher than mine.
Also,
So you
even
get my first-round pick plus my second-round pick plus my third-round pick.
So even within that same round, they're trying to like move up a spot or 2.
Yep. There have been times where people have just flipped.
So you've gone from 14 to 15 or
Usually
15 to 14.
Usually it's 16 to 14.
Okay.
Where you're just trying to leapfrog that team in between because you want this guy so bad and you're afraid this team's going
Who's
to
gonna
take him.
snatch him up? Okay. Wow. There's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff.
So much action.
What's the name of that? Was it Kevin Costner movie, the Browns one?
Yeah, draft day.
Draft Day. I saw that movie and I was like, that was very enlightening. I will say that was probably very accurate to what actually happens behind the scenes.
I will say Kevin Costner, he's such a sports fan that he tries not to have sports movies that he does that are like fantasy.
Fiction.
Yeah, that could never actually happen.
Yeah. I was like, wow, it's really intense. It was
As
actually
far as like
interesting to watch.
as far as the actual like sport part of it goes,
Right.
I will say because Field of Dreams, you're not going to have ghosts coming out of a cornfield, but
And if you do, there's a lot more going on there than you probably want to be part of.
But yeah, I mean, you got to wonder if you're in a Kevin Costner movie or a Stephen King at that point.
Facts.
But as far as the actual baseball history and the playing of the game in the movie, it was all very accurate.
Okay.
Which we again will get to when we do the Cheats and Scandals show as well.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much how the picking order is determined and the trades and all of that.
Okay.
So, I'm going to turn to you because you started writing some of this stuff out as
I did.
well and doing some research.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to talk about what goes into picking particular players.
Yes, because obviously the whole point of the draft is to build your roster to a point where you're in the playoffs, i.e., winning the Super Bowl. So, yeah, let's talk about like why. How do teams determine what makes this player worth doing all this wheeling and dealing and giving up first round picks and all
or
that stuff.
offering them the 4-year guaranteed contract with $34 million a year, whatever it is.
Right.
you
And then
know?
like a bonus and all this other stuff. So yeah, there's several things that go into it. It's not just, obviously the big one that most people have heard of is the combine.
Which you would assume that most people have at least heard the word.
Yeah.
But then there's, a lot of people will know about scouting reports.
True.
And then you have to look at your team needs and also pro days.
Right.
So we'll start with the combine. Which
you have to describe it like you described it to me, or like we talked about the other day, the presidential fitness test.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Well, for people of a certain age. I don't remember if we had to do it or not, but go ahead.
Okay, so here's the thing. First off, the first time I ever heard the word combine, I was like, they use farm equipment? But
why? What is a combine and farm equipment? Sorry.
A combine and farm equipment is like the piece of equipment that actually picks up so it's a combination piece of equipment. It is a piece of equipment that you ride that's like a tractor, but it has the scythe to cut down the wheat, it has an arm to gather the wheat, and it has a bundling thing that bundles.
Wow.
So it's everything in one.
Multi-purpose. Okay.
Okay. So, which kind of makes sense for why the combine is called the combine.
Yeah,
because
as you described it, I was like, yeah, okay.
it is everything in one. The combine has certain events that are supposed to test your physical fitness.
Mm-hmm.
It has interviews that you do with the different teams. And you actually do interviews and what's the word again?
The test.
No, the press conference.
Oh, yes.
You have interviews and press conferences with the media.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. So you have interviews with the teams, interviews with media, press conferences, and these things that are supposed to test your physical fitness.
As well as your mental fitness, which is interesting. We'll get to that in a second. I caught him. He was like, they missed one. Nope. I wrote my notes down. Sir.
This is part of the notes that she was writing in church.
Ha!
You were laughing at.
If you're hearing this, Elder Christian, I wasn't writing notes in church. You know what she's talking about. Go ahead.
Hey, it's better than what I used to do in church. I used to play tic-tac-toe with my brothers. So
I used to fall asleep when I was younger. I couldn't stay awake for the life of me. Once I tried to play cards and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Okay, sorry. Ding.
my uncle's a pastor, so I am full of all the bad, preacher kid habits.
Oh,
so
PK kid habits. Okay, go ahead.
Anyways, so the combine has all these things that they do, right? So the physical fitness events.
Well, wait, let's pause and talk about the combine real quick. How do you even get to the combine?
You are invited.
So, like, no average Joe Blow can just be like, I want to, like, put my name in and
No,
go to the
like,
combine.
Keanu Reeves can't walk off the street and say he wants to be on the combine. Okay?
The movies are so inaccurate. So, it's invitation only.
It is invitation only.
Who's sending out these invites?
So, the teams and the NFL.
Okay.
Okay? And the scouting boards and whatever. So, basically, you're really sending these invites out to the top prospects from all the colleges.
Got it.
Not all of them accept, okay, for various reasons. Sometimes the combine happens to be held at the same time as a big test.
Oh, that's
true. Yeah. So there have been times when people have had other conflicting things where they haven't been able to go to the combine. They also don't hit up all. When I say all the schools, it's in like giant quotes.
Right.
Because if you tried to hit up every school in the United States, do you know how many you would have?
No way. That combine would go on for a month. Easy.
To just interject, the how players are actually selected to the combine is by committee. It's called the Player Selection Committee.
Ah, okay.
The NFL.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, though, for breaking down what the NFL meant in that case. I'll give you credit. He is trying to help.
He is trying to help.
Is that why you're on your phone? So he's like, okay, researching. I'm ready. Come on. Missed something.
What he reminds me of is like the footnotes in a book.
Yes, you're the Cliff Note.
Not the cliff notes,
No,
the footnotes.
no, that's a summary. Yeah.
The cliff notes, where you see that little number 1 at the end of a
Oh, yeah.
sentence, and you go,
What's
"What does the number 1 mean?"
Hey,
Or
I
you know
love
the
it.
or the asterisk at the end of the ingredients of your cereal box.
Yes.
So anyways,
Oh no. Okay, go ahead.
the physical fitness events was what
Yes.
you were getting to with how I described them the other day.
Mm-hmm.
They are much like the, like we said, if you are of a certain age, because I have no idea if they even have to do these anymore, but the presidential physical fitness exams that we used to have to take in elementary school.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know about when you guys were in elementary school,
Did we
because
have to
you
do
are younger
those?
than me.
I thought so because I could never
But-
do the rope thing.
But when I was in elementary school, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the face of that.
Oh.
Under George H.W. Bush.
Oh, the first one. the OG George. Okay.
And if you were in like the top 10% or whatever, you got a little award signed by Arnold Schwarzenegger and a picture of Arnold
Oh.
Schwarzenegger. And
I don't want
You
a
know.
picture. More.
well, I mean, it was shortly after the Terminator stuff.
Okay,
so,
that's fair. That's fair. I would be like, this
Um,
is my like trophy.
But like, a select number of kids from across the country got to go to the White House if they like tested so high up
Oh,
and whatever,
wow.
and meet Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mutant kids.
So
I'm just bitter because I could never complete that test. I was not good at those tests.
I couldn't do the pull-ups ever.
No.
Ever.
It was embarrassing. I was like, can I just skip this part and you just tell me to go sit down? I don't want to have to do this.
Can we just pretend that I'm a gymnast and you're helping me get onto the apparatus over and over again? You know how they get lifted up onto the double
when their
bars?
coaches lift them up. Yeah. So funny. Okay. So,
So-
the physical fitness tests. Okay. So yeah.
Right. But how much did that actually mean for anybody
True.
when they were growing up? I mean, first off, it didn't really mean anything in and of the time, other than sometimes like some kids would pick on other kids.
Yeah.
But like, as we said, you and I failed those tests, but both of us went on to become personal trainers for some amount of time.
Exactly.
So, and be incredibly physically fit for some amount of time. So I feel kind of the same way about some of the tests at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are tests that are impressive things to say, oh, this guy can do this, but what does it mean in terms of how he actually plays the game?
Right.
There are very few of the tests, like the bench press test, because let's be honest, I'm never laying down in the middle of a football field and trying to bench press one of my opponents.
Right.
It doesn't really translate into a playable feat.
Right.
At one point in time, it was a great way to test the strength of your player, but there's so many other ways they can test that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's just kind of a throwback.
It's there for like tradition's sake. Almost.
Right. And for bragging rights.
Yeah.
Because then you can go, well, my guy can bench press 379 pounds.
Oh no, it's like a measuring contest. Okay.
Yes.
So okay, we're not gonna go into detail because we talked about possibly doing a whole combine show because it's a lot.
We are going to do a combine show, yes.
But the events are varied. They go everywhere from speed to strength to vertical height jump to. So I'll list them all. We won't linger on any. Eli, hold it in. Hold it in. So you have the big ones that people know: the 40-yard dash,
Mm-hmm.
the vertical jump,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through the other ones. The bench press test that we talked about. You have your broad jump, which, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, again,
I don't see that in football. Like, why do you need to know my broad jump in football?
why do I have to compete in a track event?
Exactly.
For football?
Confused. Okay, 20-yard shuttle, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Three.
That's like an agility test, so
Exactly.
it does make sense.
That makes perfect sense. The 3-cone drill,
Again, agility.
the 60-yard shuttle.
Agility.
Then you get breaking down into your position specifics.
Right, so that's when they're going to be like, if you're a quarterback, you're throwing.
Exactly.
Um,
if you're a
if you're a-
receiver,
Receiver, how do you catch the ball?
right.
If you are a running back, that's when you're going up against the tackling dummies. And
Right.
how far can you push that sled?
Right.
That kind of thing.
And then we get out of like the physical part into your interviews, which is going to be with the team as well as with the press. Your physical exam as well as your injury reports. So they do look at all that from your college days, like how often were you injured? Are you physically able to compete?
Have you had any major injuries that we need to worry about
Right.
that could compound?
Did you tear your ACL at some point? Did you sprain your back? That kind of stuff. Then you have your drug screenings, which makes absolute perfect sense. Your Cybex test, I don't know. I didn't read much about that one, but I guess, what is that?
Is that the mental health test?
No,
Or is
that's
that...
the next one. We'll look
Oh,
more.
no. The Cybex test is, I believe it's actually like, I believe it's body composition.
Oh, like your fat to your muscle?
Yeah.
Oh.
Fat muscle ratios and that kind of thing.
Okay. I mean, I guess. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. And then you have your Wonderlic test, which is the mental cognitive test, which it makes sense, but I never realized that was a test they would do.
So it's actually one of the more recent tests that they've added to the combine.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think specifically after all the CTE stuff.
Your concussion
But,
protocols and all that.
Right. I mean, it's been around for a while because they also want to know that, you're not actually a psychopath.
Yeah. You're just taking all this aggression on the football field. That makes perfect sense.
That you're not going to try to pile drive everybody, especially, again, before they knew about CTE, but after the mid-90s era of people tuning into football just to see who gets...
Completely destroyed.
Right. Is somebody going to wind up getting carted off and never walking again?
Right.
And that... It sounds sad, but it was a thrill to people during that era, and we look back on it and we're like, why? But that's, again, why then the XFL came out and everything else, because they pulled back on all that and they started doing player safety things.
Yeah.
And then, Vince McMahon was like, well, football's not violent enough anymore. And so he created the XFL the first time around.
Oh, my. So that's why he decided to come up with the XFL?
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that was the reason.
Yep.
I just thought he was trying to cash in on the
Nope.
popular football.
Nope.
Interesting.
Because football was no longer violent enough.
I mean, it's still pretty brutal.
Yeah, but the fact is that there was a stretch of a number of years in the mid-90s where, like, literally there was somebody having neck surgery every week.
Wow.
Or somebody had completely dislocated their hip or, ankle bones sticking out and things like that. They were rough. And that era is what led to heads-up tackling and teaching kids heads-up tackling and a lot of the safety coming out.
Wow.
And it was a few years after all that they started to really, or that the public started to hear about CTE. I'm fairly
it became more
certain.
of a big deal.
I'd have to go back and watch that movie to know more about, the
That's the
actual
one with Will
timeline.
Smith in it, isn't it? Okay.
To know more about the actual timeline.
I mean, it's good that they
of
instituted all that because, again, you don't, as an athlete, I guess you just don't expect them to have to go through those kind of things, or you don't think about it outside the fact that they're a competitor on the field, but they're still a person in real life. And when they go through these things that damage their brains and physically destroy, like break a bone or tear something vital, and they're paralyzed or whatever. And
not to go too far into the CTE stuff, but the NFL recently settled with African American players from the Players Association who are retired because they, for decades, have been using, and this goes into like medical stuff as well. The medical field has certain standards that are based on white physiology, quote unquote.
Yep.
And the scores on these tests, like the very first question is, if this patient is of African American descent, subtract 6 points.
Wow.
Because, and then like, certain players just couldn't get high enough on these scores on these tests in order to be considered that they have a mental deficit that was caused by the game.
That's crazy. Okay. So, wow. All right. That's when we talk about the combine, we can go into some more of that.
Well, and we will probably, once the NFL season gets here,
starts
actually
off.
have a conversation about things like that.
So, but that's the
so-
biggest one that I know is the combine. But of course, you said scouting reports. So really quickly, scouting reports. I don't
So-
understand that.
The teams are always sending out people to watch the players at
okay.
their games
So
in
was it
college.
like that movie Blind Side, where like you have like video coming in of these players, and you're okay.
And you're analyzing and analyzing.
Will they fit into our system? How do they do this? How do they? Okay.
Right. And really quickly, the pro days are the days where the teams invite in players
Oh.
to their facility, or where multiple teams will travel to that college
And watch.
to watch players, to basically do a mini combine with the players at their facility of choice, either the players or the team. Usually they're players that either couldn't make or didn't get asked to attend the combine.
Okay.
Occasionally you'll have somebody that made it to the combine, but then they'll have an additional pro day because maybe they were sick while they were at the combine, so they don't feel they did their best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But I'm sure there's even rules that go into that as far as like why when we would go for a pro day when a team would go see a player that
well,
couldn't
and
be at the
sometimes
combine.
some of the teams don't get to see all the players at the combine either, so they
Oh.
might ask them to do a specific pro day and things like
Oh,
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because like the players have interviews with the teams, but the teams only get so many interviews and so many minutes and things like that, and so they may have gotten their 15 minutes with a player and gone, we need to talk to him more.
We need more info. Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. That makes just like when you get called back for a second interview.
Right.
All right, and so the last part we wanted to touch on was the draft boards and the mock draft.
I don't know that we have enough time to cover that.
Okay, we'll table that.
Because
We'll table that because that can probably go off into a tangent.
I was going to
somewhere.
say it will definitely go off into a tangent. And Eli, how much time do we have left? 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
Oh, now you don't want to talk.
so very very quickly, draft boards is just what it means. It's a board with all the draft, the spots, and then the teams, and then their picks.
And that can change constantly because of all the wheeling. And
Right.
and
All the
bouncing
wheeling and
around.
dealing, they
Do
can change.
not trust Mel Kiper Jr. on ESPN. His draft board is always wrong.
Well, so that's where we're going into like the mock
Mock
draft.
drafts.
So the draft board itself isn't technically filled out until the draft happens.
Okay.
The mock drafts, like what he was talking about, are when analysts are like, this is how I think the draft is going to go. It's kind of like filling out your bracket
Yeah.
for, the
NCAA.
NCAA or for NBA finals or something like that. You're making a prediction. You never really know how that's going to work.
I would never feel like you could ever accurately make a prediction on something like that. Because things can happen so quickly at the last minute. You
Right,
know?
and there's so many different things that can happen.
Right.
It would be very hard, but they're literally sitting there going, if this team picks at this spot, this is who I think they're going to take.
People bet on this, don't they?
And the best mock draft boards literally lay it out like that compared to just saying, this is what's going to happen.
Oh, wow.
But yes, actually, the local station here actually has a contest every year where you can win a spot to a local bar and you get to fill out your mock draft, and they go around and they figure out who's got the most correct during each round, and you win prizes. And
Sports is so serious. Like, it's just the level of not even player participation, but fan participation in every aspect is always so. What surprises me most when we do any of these sports, baseball, golf, the NFL, like just how much fans get involved. Almost like they're the ones who are like paying these players, or the players are like their best friend. I just want to make sure they get the best deal, or whatever the case might be.
Right.
Nuts.
So thank you all for joining us for our draft special.
Yeah, I hope it got you prepped for why is it so big, some of the history behind it, how does it even come to being. I'm sure there's more to it. And if you have other questions, of course, reach out to us, let us know. I'm going to do the rundown. You ready? Gmail, www.sports22@gmail.com. Facebook, wait.what.sports. Instagram, wait_what_sports. I hate you, Instagram, for that. And Facebook, www.sports. No, is it wait what?
Instagram.
And I'm sorry, Facebook is wait what sports.
Yeah, you did Facebook already. Instagram.
Twitter. Is at www.sports22. There's so many of them. See, all these ways you have to contact us. And, of course, if you miss any part of any of our shows, Spotify, Podbean, and Mixler. And we stream on Facebook. So you have no excuse. All right? No excuse.
Right. And so we hope you've actually learned something and we haven't wandered too far for you today.
Yeah. We'll do it at Reeling It In next time. But let us know if you have any other questions, and we'll see you next time. Baseball's next, right? Back to baseball.
Back to baseball.
All right. Take care, everybody. Love y'all.